Yeah.
We can get this thing started. We'll just kind of slow start this thing.
Beautiful.
I am obviously I'm Tony Corbell. You guys figured that out, I'm sure by now. And with me is the lovely and talented Matthew Jordan Smith, who is up early in Tokyo today. What part of Tokyo are you living in? What are you in, downtown area, or where you guys live?
I'm like 12 minutes from Shibuya. So Shibuya is like a central Tokyo, and it's like 12 minutes on the train for me to get to Shibuya. So it's
I've been lost at that train station in Shibuya a couple of times trying to make my way to Shinjuku. Oh no,
lovely here.
Kichijoji, that's where I was trying to get to.
Oh, yeah. Kichijoji. Hi.
Yeah, you know that place.
I do.
Well, I thank you again for doing this. And I want to say a special thanks to my friends and sponsors at ProPhoto and Fujifilm for allowing me to do this thing and help me put this together. This has been something we've been talking about for a while, and I'm glad that we finally are kicking this off. This is the first in the series, and Matthew agreed to come on and be our first guest, and I'm just delighted that we're doing this. So, let's just jump right in. I was thinking about you. You and I, we cross each other a lot.
Yes.
We just miss each other at different conferences, conventions, CES and WPPI and all the different events and shows. And we never get a chance to just talk. It's always a 5-minute, it's a bypass down a trade show.
Exactly.
Aisle somewhere.
So this is good.
I'm glad we're getting a minute here. I know you grew up in Brooklyn.
Yes.
What I can't figure out, and I've never asked the question, when did this photo bug hit you? When did you say,
"Oh wow,
I need to do this"? And that's the first question. And part two of that is, I don't know anybody that specifically sought out beauty and glamour the way you did, and fashion the way you did. I don't know anybody that did that like this, and you've done it so well. I couldn't figure out when that bug hit you and how you got started with that.
It's funny as my father. I just went home to see my family a month ago, and my father, as a hobby, it was photography for him, and he took slides of everything. He shot transparency film, and he'd take pictures of the family and just us going different places. And then he had an old slide projector, and we'd go in the living room and we'd watch the slides as a family. And I was so intrigued by these little, this image on this little square thing. I'm like, what is this? And as a matter of fact, I was just home, so I took some pictures, and I want to take them back and digitize them. So I have these old transparencies that my father had, like some old Kodachrome and Agrochrome chrome. So my father got me started with it. I got the bug early on from my father, and he taught me how to use the camera. Then later on, we were born in New York, and then we moved at age 7, I moved from New York to South Carolina, and my parents, sisters, they're all still down there now. So I got, this bug, and it was a big change going from New York to the South at that time. And I was a shy kid. I was being picked on for having this Northern New York accent, which is now gone now. But photography became my outlet to meet people, to break away from being, picked at for my accent at the time. I was trying so hard to speak like a Southerner so I could fit in. It's funny to think about that now. And it was like my outlet, and it started me off on this whole crazy journey of photography. And here I am still.
Was there, I think a lot of us along the path that we all have there's a turning point. For me, I never had a turning point. I made the right choice at about 3 different forks in the road. Yeah. And thankfully I made the right choice all 3 times, but I wonder if, was there a moment where you said, I'm doing okay at this, I'm pretty good at this, and I'm on the case here?
There was definitely a light bulb moment for sure. There actually have been several light bulb moments for me. Even right now, which is kind of funny to say that, even right now, I think is a light bulb moment as I think we enter into another digital renaissance. But I think my first light bulb moment was being in high school and having a guidance counselor say, you're pretty good at this. It was a hobby for me, but I remember my senior year in high school, the yearbook staff lost all the pictures for the year. And they came to me and said, you take pictures all the time, can we use your pictures? So my high school yearbook is filled with all my personal pictures. That's like the first thing that hit me, because everybody said, okay, you always take pictures. And then I went to art school in Atlanta. And there was one professor in art school who said, the best photographers in the world, they go and they work for other photographers as assistants. If you want to be one of those photographers, you should go to a place like New York or Europe and be a photo assistant. And that was a light bulb day, because a few weeks later, I dropped out of art school and moved to New York. And that was like a turning point. Became a photo assistant with people like Gregory Heisler and, Mary Ellen Mark, and never turned back. And, here I am now, this is all I've done my entire adult life.
Your story is a lot like Gregory's story when he left Chicago and went to New York.
It is.
Same thing. I'm gonna go do this. I think it's interesting that that so many really did know that this is what they were going to always be doing.
Yeah.
When I started it, for me, it was just a job for a couple of years, and then I hit a little streak there where I thought, okay, this is more than a job. This is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. So you just, you do it.
Now I had hiccups also. I wasn't easy. Like I think whenever you are, trying to do something, you'll have the universe test you. And I was tested. There are points like when I was like, okay, like even like dropping out of art school, I'm like, oh, should I go to New York or should I, everybody, there are all these other voices. Oh, you should do this. You should do that. And I had all those voices, in my ear. Oh, can you make a living as a photographer? Even my father was like saying, as a hobby, this is great, but can you make a living at this? And he told me, he's like, there are a lot of people who are starving as photographers. And I looked at my father and I said, I won't be one of them. He said, okay. So he supported me at that point about going to New York and being a photo assistant. Now, it wasn't easy. I was like living on peanut butter and jelly as a photo assistant as first. And then it just all started coming together. And the universe has always God has always guided me and taken me to that next level. And it's led for me going to New York, then going from New York to LA for a little bit, then making the big leap and going from America to Tokyo. And every move, it just gets better and better and better. It's
funny, you picked two of the best to work with Gregory and Mary Ellen. I was fortunate enough to be on her Christmas card list, and wow. those little 2 1/4 square Christmas cards she used to mail. I loved every year at Christmas. It was like, oh, I hope Mary Ellen remembered me, and I would get a little card from her, and it's just, I've got the whole collection. They're priceless.
My first Christmas in New York City, I spent it with Gregory Heisler, Mary Ellen Mark, and Jay Mazel.
Oh my gosh.
First Christmas with those three.
What a lineup.
Yeah.
What a lineup.
I'll never forget that Christmas.
Well, that's great. You and I were talking in the test room before we went live about this year and what it's done to us all in the sort of the live digital version of what we usually are doing at a trade show somewhere. And I was watching an interview with you and Frederick from this weekend. Frederick Van Johnson. Yes. What a guy! And but y'all were talking about that as well, and how it's affected those of us that travel and speak or travel and shoot, and how our lives have changed because, I haven't been on a plane since. I know you traveled once. My next trip is in 2 weeks. My first time on a plane in 2 weeks, and I'm flying into Philadelphia, and but it's odd that we're still kind of able to do what we do without the shooting, but at the same time, we're still able to reach out and talk to people and teach people and get our words across.
Absolutely. It's been a blessing in that way.
And it seems like I thought I was busy until I started paying attention to what you're doing recently. You're the busiest guy I know that's on here doing this stuff. It's crazy. Tell me a little bit about the work that you've been doing since y'all made the move to Tokyo. Are you able to? Do you have a studio space? Are you able to rent studio space?
I have a very unique situation. So I live in an area called Jiyugaoka, very close to Shibuya, not that far away. Mm-hmm. But I spoke for Pro Photo at a conference here when I first got here, and met some photographers who were in the audience. And one was sponsored by Hasselblad. And one day I'm going into a spot to eat, have lunch with my wife. And I see this photographer. He's half Japanese, half American. And he sees me in the space. He says, "Hey, how you doing?" And so we say hello. And he's with this other guy. He says, "Do you have a studio here?" I said, "No, I don't. I've been renting the space." He says, "Well, I know a guy who's just opened a studio in this neighborhood." He didn't know where I live. So he's in this neighborhood. He's just opened a studio. He's not a photographer, but he and his wife own the building. And they're looking for photographers to come in and rent. He said, "Do you want to meet him?" I'm like, "Sure." So we go meet him like next week. And he's French, so the three of us become like best buddies, and we now share the studio space. And it's like a 5-minute walk from me. So that's where I shoot all the time. I rent it from him still, but I keep all my gear there, all my lights there, and it's like our own space that we use, and I shoot there all the time now, and it's
fantastic. Wonderful. And it's easy. It's an easy place for clients to find and get to, and all that. And
it's a very posh area. Like Jiyugaoka is like a very nice, trendy area. So people love coming here to to shoot. The studio's cool. It's like kind of like Soho-ish in New York.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Are there? Do they have rental stores like where you can rent photo gear as well?
Oh yeah.
I know Yodobashi camera. That's the only one I've ever
Yodobashi
heard of or know to.
But there's a lot actually here. There's a lot more like film industry places, like for movies. There's a lot more film industry rental places, but there are photo places as well. But still, it's not like New York and LA where it's as easy to rent stuff. It's a different lifestyle for sure, and renting's different here as well. So I bought a lot of gear. I bought in like different lights, and I have a lot of my own lights, a lot of my own profile lights. I have my own gear.
Sure.
But then when I need something, I'll just go and rent it, or I'll even sometimes go to Pro Photo in Japan and say, "Can I borrow this?" For if it's a big event,
sure,
like like the Olympics, like that. I'll say, like, "Can I borrow this?" And
yeah, those Olympics they're coming up on you.
Yes, they are.
They're coming up.
Yes, soon. Hopefully they happen. So
and as I'll tell everybody that's watching this that you've got a couple of assignments coming up there. You'll be working the Olympics and shooting.
Correct.
Quite a bit for the Olympics.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Great.
Hopefully they take place.
Yeah, I'll bet they will. I noticed, speaking of the gear, I noticed a lot of behind the scenes pictures with you over the years, and there's generally a Pro Photo beauty dish pretty close to wherever you're standing.
That's true. It's always
you use that beauty dish a lot, don't you?
I do. I mean, I use a lot of different modifiers. I use a lot of grids. Even with the beauty dish with grids, I use a magnum reflector. I use even some modifiers that are discontinued, like a travel beam reflector, a narrow beam travel mini reflector. I've got it all. Yeah.
The tools are boy, once you know how to make the tools work for you, you can produce work like you produce. Not very many can do that.
I love this industry. I love it.
And it does kind of get into. I mean, it's kind of like, what else would we do?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember one time my daughter saying, when you're not working, you're still taking pictures.
Yes.
And I said, yeah. She said, boy, I hope I can find something like this.
My camera is always by my side. Like,
there you go.
I'll go out and I'll shoot. Like, I have this sakura path or cherry blossom path, a block from me. And that path, you see the seasons change in it because it starts with cherry blossoms. Then it changes from that to the the azaleas, and from azaleas to now we're about to go into the rainy season, and it's the ajisai, which is hydrangeas in English. The hydrangea season's about to start. So I see all of these flowers come in and out throughout the season, and I'm out there shooting. Like I have my macro lens on now, and I go out there and I shoot every single day something in Tokyo, because this place is like a photographer's dream.
It's I remember when I was there, it was right before we transitioned into digital. So I shot film, and I remember shooting so many rolls of film that I had to stop and give myself an assignment every morning. So I would maintain some kind of a discipline and just stop shooting nonstop, because I was just shooting everything. And I had to slow down.
I remember that. I remember my last trip shooting film. I went to India and took 200 rolls of film, and that's my last time shooting film. Well, last time I still shoot film even now. Was my last time shooting film where it was only film. Yeah. After that trip, I came back and bought a digital camera
and started bringing it into the mix a little bit.
Yeah, that was that time. That was 2000. That was 2005. I was slow to transition into digital.
Yeah. I wasn't in a big rush myself either. You and I. One of the other things that we share. Speaking of which, the last time I shot film was at Santa Fe Workshop.
Wow.
I know you'd taught out there.
Yes.
In Santa Fe, and I had taught out there at that old West Town, that old ghost town, the old Eve's Ranch, the old West Town. I remember that. And that was the last day I shot a roll of film. That was in 2001, I think. Yeah.
I still shoot film now. I still shoot film even now. Yeah. It's like, we talk about the beginning of digital. I remember that moment, and I feel like this is almost a moment like that now. Today is a big day for me. Today I'm launching. I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with this about the whole NFT thing happening around the world right now. Yeah, I have. I actually haven't. I'm launching my first NFT today. So I'm launching my first. I'm doing my Genesis NFT non-fungible token today. So it's a big day, and I think I believe this moment is like the beginning of digital photography or the beginning of the internet. I think this moment is like one of those moments. I know I'm probably not in a minority thinking about that, but I see this as being.
No, but it does have to be thought through, because
absolutely,
there was a guy 20 years ago that told me he worked for Bell Corporation Labs in New York and New Jersey, and I remember him saying that he was developing a system whereby an imaging specialist like us could go in and verify in a legal court document that was an unchanged original work that was never retouched. And he's been talking about this for 20 years. Wow. But now what you're talking about changes everything, because now we're talking about certifying a single piece of work.
Exactly.
That it's who the owner is, and that it's never been touched or altered or changed. And it's pretty interesting.
It's a very interesting time. It's a very interesting time.
It can be worth a lot of money to people that are doing this and doing it right and doing it well.
That's true.
Because it's like some of the great old fine art guys that destroy their negative after making 5 prints or whatever, and then they burn the negative.
Yeah,
there'll be no more.
There'll be no more.
This is it.
So you think about that. This is a very interesting moment, because with digital, people can just like copy an image or steal it easily, or even I've had people like use my images and say that they shot this picture before.
Oh yeah.
This
Yeah,
changes
there
the
was one
game
guy.
in so many ways.
We heard about a guy last year that his entire website, there was not one picture that he hadn't stolen. He stole everything.
I've heard that story over and over again.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So if something happened to you right now, and you had to leave the industry, what's your backup career choice? What's your backup option? What would you do if you weren't doing what you do?
What a great question. If I had to leave this industry, what would I do?
Yeah,
I would probably still go do. I'd probably go into the film industry as as a director, and use these same talents in a different way. Because as a commercial photographer, you are directing all the time. You're like you're setting up lights. Like, so I could be a gaffer on a movie set.
Sure.
You're putting together storyboards.
Right.
Fashion, beauty, putting together storyboards. I could be a storyboard artist. I could be a producer, because producing, you're putting everything together. Pre-shoot, shoot, post-shoot. I can do that because I do that all the time also anyway. So
do it anyway.
Yeah. So there's all these other elements of being a photographer that can take into another realm, stylist, photographer, scouting locations. I've been all over the world, and I know all these different spots, and finding great locations,
Sure.
All that stuff. It'd be something still creative for sure. This is in my blood.
Well, it is. It's funny how it is. All of us that are probably everybody that's watching this right now, and everybody that we know, all of our friends are photographers.
Yeah.
It's all about telling a story. We know how to tell a story, whether it's visual, whether it's on paper. I always wanted to be a comedy writer for some reason. It's the same thing. We're still structuring something around the story.
That's true.
Type,
That's true.
I have always wanted to ask you this question. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. I really wanted to get more on your relationship. I mean, obviously you photograph so many beautiful faces and so many people that we all know of, recognizable faces. Tyra Banks, of course, comes to mind, and
yes,
and Oprah and all the others. But the TV show. Let's talk about this little TV show, this quiet little show in the background, America's Next Top Model. How did that come about, and how did you get so in depth involved in that?
When I was a photo assistant, so this is going way back, I met Tyra. I was doing a lot of testing of models at the time, and I had this one makeup artist who I used all the time, and he said, "There's this new model named Tyra out." And I saw her picture. I'm like, I want to shoot this girl. So then he calls me and said, "Oh, she's available for a test, but she's shooting today a job. The only time she has is, tonight." And back then I lived in Brooklyn. And I said, "Fine, let's shoot." So we got together at like 10 o'clock at night, and we shot all night long. It's my first shoot with her. And we finished at like 2 a.m. And we just all bonded so well. And we've been shooting ever since. Like, I shot her, no kidding, easily 100 times. I've shot Tyra from, the mid-90s up until now. And I watched her. We became friends. We saw, I watched her grow. I watched her become a supermodel. I did her first calendar before she was famous. We went to Jamaica. She used all her miles to get the whole crew down because, she wasn't famous at the time. And it's just so funny thinking about all that now. And then when she had the idea for the show, even before that show, she was on this thing called VH1. VH1 used to have this thing on people who were driven, and the show was called Driven. And she was interviewed for Driven, and they wanted to interview some of her friends. So they brought me on as one of her friends to interview about our relationship, being friends. And she talked about having all these ideas for this stuff, one being a show. And then years later comes Top Model, and she puts it together, and she pulls me in to do a few episodes. I did like 6 episodes for the American version Then I did Caribbean Sticks Top Model for like 2 episodes as well. But they still run, and I still get residual checks from those shows.
You're still listed on IMDb. I'm just saying.
It's been so long ago.
You're listed on cast. Matthew Jordan Smith plays self.
It's funny because people say, like, even here in Japan, like, oh, I saw your episode again. I'm like, wow. I mean, they're in syndication everywhere, so.
It's funny how that stuff goes, and it just goes forever.
Forever.
Once it's done, and that's what a lot of us do, or what you do. This work that you've done lives on. The work that you did for Oprah. Well, I don't know how that relationship with Oprah started, but some of the work that you've done with her, that stuff's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't know how I don't know how you do what you do so well. I photograph people also, and I don't know what you do, but I don't know anybody that does it better.
I love the whole process of creating. I've always loved not just that one image. I love the whole process of creation. I love getting to meet people and make them feel beautiful. Like for me, it's like, I love people feeling a certain way. So I love that process of making a person feel a certain way, take them out of their moment and bring them into this space like a studio and make the entire environment feel special and intimate and cozy. And in doing that, you form relationships. So many of my clients have become friends because, making somebody feel beautiful and look beautiful is special. And you create this bond. That's how my entire career has been. That's how I've made all these relationships, and it's grown to what it is now. It's just loving what you do, and people feel that, and they want you around to capture they trust you with their image, and it just keeps going and going and going.
It's that process and that whole production world. I remember I started a lot working with Dean Collins in San Diego years and years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember we were shooting an ad for Porsche America, and we were just finishing up. It was an 8x10 chrome shoot. It was a great picture, and we were just about finished, and we were just about to shoot the final sheet of film, and it was pretty late at night, and the whole crew was worn out. And we'd been shooting 12, 14 hours, and Dean stopped and turned around and said, "Let's order a pizza." It's like, well, what are you doing? Let's get this thing shot and get out of here. And he's like, no, let's
enjoy this moment.
Shoot this,
we're done.
We all have to go home. If we shoot this, we're all done. We have to go home. Somebody order a pizza. We'll eat the pizza, then we'll take the picture.
I totally get that.
Oddly enough, everybody in the room got it and said, "What a great idea! Let's order a pizza." And that's what we did.
I totally get that. Even now, like, one of my studio mates, he shoots cars. Cars are huge here in Japan. So he shoots this. He shoots, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and I see them all the time here. He shoots the high-end cars, and I shoot people. But we all get together and we tell our stories and just talk, Photoshop, and it's just the best in the world. Hearing all those stories. And sometimes we're in the studio, just like you talk about just now. Just being there and just talking all night long, eating sushi, and
it's a good place to be.
Sake, yeah.
It's a good place to be. There's one of yours, a new one of yours. I think it seems like it's new, that I think you shot in Vegas of a young Miss Teen USA or something.
Yes.
Black and white. That's just absolutely the most beautiful picture I've ever seen.
Thank you.
And I don't know. Again, I look at this and I do this for a living, and I don't know how you pull it off like the way you do it. And the shallow depth of field. I mean, her eyes are crisp, her nose is crisp, and her ears are out, and it's just like, damn it, how does he do this? But it's so beautiful. Like
back in the day, we always wanted to shoot. We want to have like the most power possible in our strobe gear. I remember having those Pro 8s, Pro 8s, and wanting to shoot, as much power as possible. And now the way cameras have changed and lights have changed, not carrying all this gear all the time. So now I'm shooting wide open. 1.4 is what I love doing now. And I can now dial lights down. I can dial down my B10 and just have like a small amount of light. So I'm shooting
Just
at
a wink.
1.4. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where 10 years ago you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You couldn't dial the
And your
power
recycle
down
time,
that much.
your recycle is like this.
Absolutely.
You don't have to slow down. They'll stay up with you.
Not at all. I love shooting from my Nikon 105 lens. That baby is so sharp. It's so sharp.
Is that, would you say that is probably the one piece of gear on the camera side that you're not going to go to work without?
Absolutely. Yeah. That is my go-to piece of gear. I love that lens.
Yeah. What about on the light side? If you're just stranded on the desert island, you get one piece of lighting gear. What's it going to be you're taking with you?
A B10 and a beat dish.
Yeah. Okay. I could have guessed that one. That B10 changes everything, doesn't it?
It is an amazing light. I have it in my bag when I travel.
It fits where my 7200, my 2470 used to fit.
Yes.
My B10 fits in that same slot.
Same.
In my bag.
Same. I can carry it on the plane everywhere, and it's easy, super powerful, super lightweight. Yeah. So that gear is with me all the time. 105 and a B10.
Of course, I'm going to look forward to seeing you again somewhere soon. I hope maybe it's going to be Vegas or the New York show or something. But what's in the future for you? What's the future hold in store for Matthew Jordan Smith? What do you want to do?
I am working on a big show. I had an exhibit actually last year here in Kyoto. I had a show at the Kyoto Museum of Photography in September last year. Of course, in September last year, Japan was in lockdown seriously, and Kyoto was a ghost town. Nobody could travel anywhere. So the only people who came to the show were these people who lived in Kyoto. So, of course, it wasn't a big turnout. But my dream is to take that show around the world, and that's what I'm working on to get that show out there. So I spend a lot of time looking, and I have endless Zoom meetings working on. We have a standing weekly meeting where we all get together and talk about the show and how to roll it out once the world opens up and we can travel again. So we're in the works for that. So that's my every day is that, working on that, bringing that show to life.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Is it sort of a retrospective of your career, of your work?
Not
or is there
a
specific theme to it?
It's this very specific theme, all totally different. This is work that people have not seen. I've been working on this work for the last 14, 15 years, but I don't show it. As a matter of fact, my debut of the work being out to the public, really being out, is today, because I'm using one of these images as an non-fungible token, an NFT. So, and it's beyond the realm of photography. As a matter of fact, I say it's not even photography. So I've given it another name because we know a photograph on the wall is like a frozen moment, or as we all know, it's the decisive moment. This is not that. It's
well, you've been hinting at this for a while. I've been listening to you for a while.
I have.
And you've been hinting at this something, whatever this is going to become, for a while.
Exactly. If you think about a photograph and how it fits into a frame, and for the most part, since the 1800s, beginning of photography has been within a frame. Whether that frame is on a wall or on a device or on a computer, it all fits into a frame. And I feel like I've created something that is beyond the borders, borderless, that up until now never had a home. It could never fit into the way we see images today. So I always felt it was beyond its time and didn't have a way to show it until now. So I showed it in person for the first time in September last year at a show. But in Japan, of course, everything is small. So the gallery is small. So my one main piece was 46 meters long. I'm sorry, 46
Wow.
feet long, 14 meters long. And that was still
Wow.
only half the image. So all these images are very, very long, and they're shown very differently. They're all created on washi, which is like Japanese paper, the same paper that's used to make the scrolls, which is a very unique type of paper. It's delicate, but extremely strong. If you go to a museum and look at a scroll from 2,000 years ago, that scroll still exists and it's beautiful. That's washi. So to make images on that takes it a totally different realm, and that's what I have. That's part of what I have.
So I'm assuming that word will be out, and PR is going to go out, and magazine articles are going to go out fairly soon, you think?
I'm going to release the name today for the first time as an NFT on my NFT. So I'm letting it out there for the first time, because even at the exhibit last year in September in Kyoto, I didn't release the name of it at that point. So I'm doing that for the first time today. It will be released. Well, this is Wednesday for me, but I'll release it on Wednesday in the States.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that you are tomorrow for us. You're 14 hours ahead.
Yes, I'm in the future. I'm in the future.
You're in the future. How is today, by the way?
Today's an amazing day.
Well, we'll be there in a minute. We'll be there in a few hours. Oh, that's great. It's great. I don't want to keep you long here, but I do want to ask one last question, and then we'll wrap this up. Obviously, you influence people. I mean, you everywhere that I've seen you, everywhere that you go, you smile just like that, and you talk to everyone that approaches you just like this, and it's encouraging, and it's inspiring, and it's impressive. I've watched you after a lecture at the Nikon stage or at ProPhoto stage or whatever it is, and I've watched you interact. What is the one thing that you would tell all new up and coming photographers? Above everything else, you've got to do this. What is that one thing that you might give them as a piece of true advice for their future to sort of work?
I think the most important thing is to share your voice. We all have a voice, like a visual voice. Mm-hmm. We live in a world where we see something and it's just common. People covet what they see. But when you realize that you have your own way, your own, every person in the world has their own unique fingerprint. There's no two people in the world that have ever existed that have the same fingerprint. I mean, how unique is that? So that lets us know that we are all unique. We don't have to do the same thing. We have our own unique way of seeing life, and our experience is different. So when you learn how to share your vision, how you see the world, and not be stifled trying to fit into, what everybody else is doing, that's power. So I want to tell every new photographer to understand your superpower, your vision that you have. You may not know you have it, but you do. We all do. And share that with the world. Share how you see the world. Forget about fitting in and doing what everybody else is doing, because you
forget about trying to copy someone.
Forget about trying to copy someone.
Yeah.
I mean, even that person who's out there trying to stealing work and putting a website together, that's somebody coveting what they see. And it's normal. People covet what they see all the time. But you're forgetting that you have something special within you. That's the special thing. How do you see the world that nobody else sees? What's your experience? We're all, born from our parents, whoever our parents are, raised in wherever place we are raised in the world. And that all those little influences make us. Your experience in life, everything you go through makes you. Me living in Japan now has, had an impact on my life and my work. And your life should be reflected in your work. That's your unique fingerprint. Show that work. Definitely learn, of course, you want to learn the basics for sure. You have to learn all the rules. And then you break the rules by putting you into your work. So for every new photographer, every old photographer, learn to put you into your work. That's how you stand out, make a mark, make your name, and how you
that's-
really enjoy this whole journey as a visual creator, photographer.
That's a great message. And it probably prolongs your career and keeps you from burning out, because you're doing
Absolutely.
what you are supposed to be doing.
Yes, what you love. You're really expressing yourself in the truest fashion, and that never gets old. If you're just doing it for trying to make money, you can burn out on that.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of a better way to close the show than to pay attention to that. I hope somebody's taking notes. Write that down, and do it with style and a smile and a little bit of quality here and there, and you'll be just fine, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for doing this, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you. And, thank you all. Thank you all.
I hope to see you. I'm not sure when the next big show is going to be. I guess WPPI is in August maybe, and then as we come around the fall corner, we'll see what happens there with some more of the larger shows.
I hope we are all in another place where we can travel again and be free to hug and shake hands and all that stuff again sometime soon. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you,
again,
Tony.
Thank you all for being here with us tonight. This has been great. I say tonight, it's tomorrow morning in Japan, but it's been great. And thanks for everybody attending. Thank you for ProPhoto and for Fujifilm for doing this with us. And
yes.
Guys, just terrific. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. We're going to do one of these every month, and we'll put the word out soon with all the dates and times, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day over there, Matthew.
Pleasure. Thank you, Tony.
You so much.
Thank you so much for having me be under the guests as well. Thank you so much.
Betcha.
See you at ProPhoto.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.